I want to be honest with you about why I dropped out of college. It wasn't because I couldn't handle the work. In fact, I was in my senior year when I got extremely sick, and I had no choice but to step away. At the time, I thought it would be just a pause. Though once I recovered, I'd go right back and finish my degree. Welcome to the Curly Carbocation channel. I'm Clary and I got my Associate of Science in Chemistry and studied Chemical Engineering. While my name implies that I focused on chemistry, which is true, this is also a place to guide you through school and making tough decisions about higher education. Let's go! Now, I didn't just return to school. When I was finally ready, reality hit me hard. I couldn't afford it. And that's when I realized something important. College isn't just about being smart enough or motivated enough. It's also about being financially ready. And if you're not ready, forcing yourself into it can leave you with years of debt and stress. And make no mistake, these loan servicers are predators waiting to pounce at you at your most vulnerable state. So today, I want to share my story. Not to discourage anyone from going to college, but to remind you that your timeline doesn't have to look like everyone else's. There's nothing wrong with waiting until you're ready, financially, emotionally, and even physically. In fact, sometimes waiting makes you stronger. I got sick by husband hunting during the first football game of the year. It was 2021, our school just got back in person, and it was my senior year of chemical engineering with scary senior design. I was literally out talking to guys at the tailgate area, and this guy coughs right in front of me and says, I literally had COVID 10 days ago, and I thought, I'm going to die. And I fell ill after that. I returned home to recover, and my professors validated my decision to delay until the next year. But when I did recover, I thought I'd just pick up where I've left off, but reality hit. College costs money that I don't have. I still needed to pay for the semester that I dropped out of, and while my school's policies don't bar you from taking classes that you haven't paid for yet, they do bar you from enrolling in the next set of classes if you haven't paid for your most recent semester. And I didn't have that money. I worked in retail, and even with my state's exorbitantly high minimum wage, it was nowhere nearly enough for school. And yet, I felt this immense pressure to return. Like I had to go back right away or I'd be behind. And you might be feeling that too. Oftentimes, parents will pedestalize their children for going to university, and being their golden trophy is a pressuring situation, or even just with peers, since academic progression is oftentimes age associated. You feel that pressure from your teachers, counselors, media, etc. And let me tell you, I succumbed to that pressure and I'm paying for it now. So let's talk about why financial readiness matters. College is an investment, not just a milestone. As the book of Proverbs says, get wisdom though it costs all you have. But without financial stability, this may lead to crushing debt, stress that distracts from learning, and dropping out again, but this time with loans attached. That is exactly what happened to me. Student loans are provided with the assumption that you're going to graduate in a timely manner, get a job within 6 months of graduation, and pay them off for many years. While it looks like an aid, there is no guarantee that you're going to finish up school on time. Life's unpredictability fell on me. Now, with my associate's degree, it got me a slightly higher paying job, but it wasn't nearly enough to pay off my loans. So please, it's not weakness to wait, it's wisdom. After I recovered at home, I texted my boss in my retail job if I could return to work. She quickly took that opportunity to make me an acting sales lead, which basically means that I'm the manager when nobody else wants to be. That position gave me both the authority and the opportunity to act in high-pressure situations, a title and skill set that got me more jobs in the future. Also, my associate's degree got me a job as an emergency substitute teacher. Now, while pursuing my chemical engineering degree was my entire pride and desire, teaching absolutely fulfilled me. I honestly felt like my students saved me, and they forced me to grow up into an adult. But let me also tell you that after I taught, I tried to come back to school. But chemical engineering math is heavy, and a few of the professors were different than when I took it. So the curriculum changed, and I was just not prepared with the lack of math practice anyway. I was at the end of my rope, and God once again provided me a way out. It was actually because of getting COVID that I turned off notifications of a bunch of apps on my phone, including this group messaging software that my school primarily used. Well, while failing senior year number 2, I checked that messaging app, and the Christian club group I was in years ago, the pastor said that he had an old student who needed an engineering intern. I jumped on it right away, and even though I felt underqualified and underexperienced, and definitely without the GPA, I got the job as a year-long engineering co-op in the automotive field. I learned that it's much like engineering school where nobody knows what they're doing, and that my organizational skills from retail were my most useful skills. See, being a retail manager, a substitute teacher, and an engineering intern, I learned responsibility, perspective, and maturity. And because of all of these, and dropping out a second time specifically due to finances, I was able to get a job in the engineering field that was higher paying and fulfilling. I loved that job, and I got to use all the math I learned in engineering school. And now I understand how to attack engineering school even better. Those lessons I could never learn at 18 years old. Now, as someone who is fiercely academic, it is absolutely okay to reframe the timeline. There is nothing wrong with starting later, and in fact, it can be smarter. The most common example I found in community college were parents and ex-military people. These people consistently performed better even with all the extra stresses of life because they valued the investment they made into themselves. They knew how they worked under pressure, and now with the extra pressure of feeding their children, that gave them even more purpose to be even more successful for themselves. Teenage me wouldn't even dream of getting the grades that they did. So look, your timeline is valid and education doesn't expire. I'm not talking about the timeline policies when taking classes, but when your education becomes a part of you, none of it is wasted. So I encourage you not to give in to the pressure if you're not financially ready. The debt is not worth it. Take it from me because I'm making all sorts of crazy payments and it's not a life that you want. And school is always going to be there. Participating in the workplace is still valuable education too. And while you're at it, you can save money, invest that into retirement, and grow in your skills. When you're ready, school will be there. If you've taken a non-traditional path, share your story in the comments. I want to encourage people to continue their education despite their circumstances, and it helps when we all encourage each other. If there's one thing that you take away from my story, it's this. Dropping out doesn't mean you failed. If it's from sickness, finances, whatever, sometimes the wisest decision you can make is to take a step back, regroup, and wait until you're truly ready. Thank you so much for watching my video. I truly appreciate every single one of your views. And if this story encouraged you, make sure to check out my video on how dropping out of school saved my life and gave me purpose. Click right here.